And what is it with you? You do not fight in the cause of God and for oppressed men, women, and children, who cry out, saying, "Our Lord, deliver us from this land of oppressors. Appoint for us a Savior. Appoint for us helper, and all by your grace." Believers, those who believe in God, fight for the cause of God, whereas those who do not believe in God fight for the cause of devil. So fight against Satan, evil forces. Indeed, Satan's schemes are ever weak. What we learn from these verses, we are all the children of Adam and Eve. We are like one family. We are asked as international community, as larger family, those are oppressed, we are asked to help them, to support them, and to take a part in it so that we can bring a harmony in the society, we can bring a balance in our nations. Thank you.
Welcome to Dallas Kashmir seminar hosted by Kashmir Global Council. We are going to play a short video introducing to you what the Global Council is all about. With that, I would request Zain if he can play the video introducing the Kashmir Global Council. What is the objective of the council? What are we striving for? And then I will request the board members for their intro.
The continued and unabated violence perpetrated on the civilian population of Kashmir by the Indian occupation has been unprecedented in recent history. The recent and ongoing brutalities perpetuated on innocent Kashmiris has remained a matter of concern for every Kashmiri living outside Kashmir. There has been overwhelming coverage about these atrocities and the use of disproportionate force in the Western media. United Nations Human Rights Commission requested access to Kashmir, but has been denied by the Indian government. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, as well as local activists and social media shared pictures of the present situation in Kashmir are testimony to the willful war crimes against a caged population. While this has been covered more pervasively in Western media, all Kashmiris living in North America have been frustrated with the lack of progress on any diplomatic or political initiative to resolve the issue of Kashmir. Some well-known Kashmiris and organizations met on August 13th in Niagara Falls, Canada, to brainstorm options. A path forward emerged in the form of a political advocacy group to facilitate a political situation to the Kashmir imbroglio. Different sub-teams were formed to come up with a vision, mission, and other details for such a political advocacy group. As a follow-up meeting, participants met in New York on September 24th to ratify the recommendations of the sub-teams on the mission, objectives, and structure to form the organization. In order to work cohesively for a comprehensive united struggle, the participants unanimously agreed to frame an organizational structure. The new organization will work to reinforce the struggle at the international level by way of undertaking political and diplomatic initiatives to supplement the sacrifices of the people of Kashmir for their basic political and human rights. The new organization intends to reach all activists or organizations working for the Kashmir cause around the world to adopt a cohesive and united front of the diaspora community. The organization will work for political advocacy, human rights awareness, and to complement the existing social, cultural, and charitable organizations that are doing work for Kashmir. Participants deliberated on adopting effective ways and means to advocate at the international level and discussed some immediate short-term goals for the organization to work on. These goals will help set up a structure and will shape the organization towards its long-term vision.
I would like to request KGC board members, if they can stand up so they can be recognized for the audience. We have Farooq Siddiqui Saab, who is the president of KGC. Myself and board members are Raja Muzaffar Saab, as well as Altaf Qadri Saab, and we have brother Qasim Khokar somewhere. Thank you. So our rest of the board members, because it's a US and Canada-based organization, rest of the board members, they could not make it. I would like to request Raja Muzaffar Saab, who is on the board, who is the pioneer of this seminar today, would like to give a welcome address in 7 minutes. Raja Muzaffar Saab.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely thank you all for taking out your valuable time from your busy schedule to attend this seminar and dedicate your time for the cause of bringing peace and harmony to this world. I am especially grateful to all of guests who have traveled states and countries to attend today's seminar. The experts invited in the seminar will compare the occupation of Jammu and Kashmir and Ukraine. As a reminder, when Pakistan and Indian Army entered Kashmir in 1947, based on self-imposed assumption to occupy Jammu and Kashmir, a war erupted and thousands of Kashmiris were killed and thousands forced to flee from their home. It was the first war between India and Pakistan. The negative effects of this decision are still in full force for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The situation that the people of Ukraine are facing today has been faced by the people of Jammu and Kashmir during 3 major wars in the last 75 years. We know the effect it has on the future generation and what a forced occupation can do to the lives of the peaceful sovereign nation. The Kashmiris living on the line of control cannot meet each other and cannot share happiness or sorrow with their families across the forced divided line. I personally miss seeing my grandfather, grandmother, and miss not being able to pay my respect at their resting place. We would like our experts at this seminar to share their thoughts on what steps can Kashmiri diaspora take to help bring not only awareness but also applicable steps towards an acceptable solution for the people who are occupied forcibly. The keynote speaker of the seminar, Mr. Farooq Siddiqui Saab, President of the KGC, who belongs from Srinagar, will educate us about similarities of the occupation of Kashmir and Ukraine. I want to thank you once again and hope that you will use political and diplomatic influence over India and Pakistan and play a key and leadership role in bringing justice and independence to the Kashmiri people. The governments of India and Pakistan are claiming their possession and ownership of Jammu and Kashmir on false assumptions. We Kashmiris reject their claims. The people of Jammu and Kashmir want complete independence. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raja Saab. Raja Saab has dedicated his entire life for the cause of Kashmir, search for a peaceful resolution where people of Kashmir can have their own land, have their own sovereignty, where they can govern their own country as per the aspiration of a people of Kashmir. There's a parity between Kashmir and Ukraine. Ukraine at one point of time was a free and independent country. Then it was occupied by Russia. The people of sanity around the world stood up with Ukraine, and we hope and wish that one day same people will rise up and stand up for the people of Kashmir who are facing the oppression for the last 75 years. Even though the struggle started long before that, our panelists will shed light on those tragic atrocities that people of Kashmir have been facing. So I'd like to play a short video about the diversity in Ukraine. And it is somewhat similar, the situation, what we see in Kashmir.
Is, the Eastern Slavs that, all kind of go back from, perhaps a variety of tribes that kind of populated the area from the north, which is now kind of Belarus and the kind of like Latvia, Lithuania, the Baltics, down to the Black Sea, to the steppes. So there is no racial diversity, but I would say there is absolutely religious diversity. In terms of being at least two dominant religions, they're both Christianity, but there is Catholicism, more trending towards the Western Ukraine, closer to Rome. Although a good chunk of Ukrainians are also Greek Catholics as well. And then as you look towards the east, towards Moscow, although of course there are exceptions everywhere, especially in the larger towns, it is what is known as the Orthodox Christianity. And of course, again, especially prior to World War II, but in general, even till today, there has been a significant Jewish population. Again, more so, west of the Dnipro River and towards Poland, but definitely everywhere. As well as there's definitely been a few trade routes going back to 1200s that have passed through Kiev, even other places that have brought other people, Armenians, Turks, and others. And so the larger cities always had kind of neighborhoods, and there are still streets in Lviv, where I'm from, that refer to other ethnic groups. I would say that it's absolutely diverse in this sense. It is probably diverse politically. I mean, Ukraine as a country has had at least 5 presidents since its independence in 1991. You can say that about our neighbor to the east, and they have been, you can't really put them very clearly on the political spectrum, but they certainly have represented a variety of leanings, from more pro-Western leanings to more central, older kind of communist type. In the earlier days, you could probably call President Kuchma that. And quite often, and I think to this day in the parliament as well in the Rada, there is quite a few different parties represented. So it is truly a country that I would say is at least religiously and politically diverse. Absolutely. Again, I will point to the fact that we have had at least 5 peaceful transfers of power at the presidential level, and a number, and I do not remember the exact numbers in terms of the parliamentary transfers of power. As you know, there have been 2 events where people have come on the street in the Orange Revolution and more recently as well, where people seeing interference in the elections have actually protested when the results were such that they were visibly egregious what was happening. So people came out and actually in both cases had democracy persevere over. But in general, there have been quite a few transfers of power from completely different individuals. There's coexistence of multiple political parties and always has been, anywhere from the very, very pro-Western to the old school communists. And I think that is really what makes it a very well-functioning democracy. I find it very difficult to see that happening at a territory of any significance. Mostly because, again, even in the East, they have seen and continue receiving extreme opposition from anyone, from the armed forces, from the local, I guess you can call them militias, right, to down to just individual people, civilians. And thinking about, just logistically, about the number of quote-unquote law enforcement officials and the support that they would require and the punitive measures and everything else that would continuously turn the country or the occupied party against them, I don't see the East-West Germany type of a scenario being meaningfully in existence. I mean, I suppose we can say that we've seen this in Donbass and in the Crimea in a way, but I think that both of those, not to diminish what happened in 2014, but the scale of violence, the scale of overt disregard for anything from human life to forget international law, has been completely different. So I just don't see them being able to hang on to power without being consistently exposed to all kinds of anything from civilian unrest to kind of a very active partisan warfare. So I think it would be difficult. And from the, thinking outside of logistics and the money that would cost, I think the identity now has been forged such that people would continue seeing themselves as Ukrainian. So I think it is certainly not racially diverse. I mean, by and large, the population is, the Eastern Slavs that, all kind of go back from, perhaps a variety of tribes that kind of populated the area from the north, which is now kind of Belarus and the kind of like Latvia, Lithuania, the Baltics, down to the Black Sea.
Now, before I invite our president of the organization, Farooq Siddiqui Saab, who is an engineer by trade, a very dedicated individual who have devoted his entire life, have gone through oppression, suppression himself. Several times he was jailed, but he never gave up. There are two things that I like about him. First, that he never gave up for the pursuit of independence of Kashmir. And second thing that I like about him is, right before this conference, he came over about a week, making sure that we are ready and have this conference successful. And actually, I do like one more thing about him, that I like his hairstyle, by the way. Farooq Siddiqui Saab.
Thank you, Mujib. Thank you very much. I hope everybody is able to listen comfortably here. I'm not sure from where I will start, but very important thing is that all of us, we know that any civilization of mankind in the past, they grew and ascended to a point where they could not sustain that ascendancy. By looking at the history, by looking at the archaeological findings, we see that many civilizations came up. We saw in Egypt the civilization based on mysticism and dogmas. We saw a civilization, we heard of civilization and extricated archaeological finds in Mesopotamia. We found it in Indus Valley, Chinese civilization based on Confucianism, and Indian civilization based on the myths. And then we found the Roman civilization based on the Christianity, and the power of Christianity and religion. And then we had the golden period of what they call Islamic civilization. All these civilizations in the past had one thing in common, that they could not pursue and could not combine and could not take care of the heterogeneous society that they belonged to. There were conquests of different places, there were invasions, and these were the big empires, but they could not sustain themselves because unless you do not take care of on a level field the aspirations of those societies whom you have conquered or you have invaded or you have annexed, unless you don't take their aspirations into consideration, those civilizations will fall eventually. And that's what happened in the past. Today, in our civilization, we are in pursuit of the far reaches of space and we are seeking the knowledge and understanding of the physical world that we live in. We are going into the deep sea and finding what this planet is all about. And there are challenges for this human race today to sustain this ascendancy. But there would be pitfalls, and we have to take care of those pitfalls. And those pitfalls are nations today have nuclear arsenals all over. There are many nations who have within them, they have the capabilities of destroying world, not once, not twice. They have the capabilities of doing it 10 times. So we are living in a dangerous world in which conflicts and issues have to be resolved. If we do not do that, we may fall in the abyss and this civilization may end up in ruins. So one of the recent issues, when nation states in the name of democracy, when the autocratic states in the name of nationalism, and then religious states in the interest of religion, they create a nation state. And then those nation states, when they become big and strong, somehow they have the courage and somehow with impunity they annex other nations, small nations. So that is what has happened in Ukraine lately, which the Western media is showing considerably the knowledge of that. But dear audience, there are other conflicts and other issues in the world which do not get that media as you get from Ukraine. There is Kashmir. Kashmir is one of the places where an occupation has taken place like Ukraine. In Ukraine, there is an occupation of Russia going on this time. But in Kashmir, we have 3 nuclear powers who have occupied us. If you can see these maps here, we have put in red, yellow, and green. You will see these are 3 neighbors of Kashmir who have forcibly taken and occupied. You would be knowing that North Korea and South Korea have a military zone, demilitarized zone there. And everybody is talking about that it is the most militarized zone in the world. But when you look at this Kashmir, there is more than 1.3 million army which is occupying. One is India with 800,000 army within that yellow area. And then there is Pakistan's 200,000 army in that green area. And then China's PAF, People's Liberation Army, in that red one. And these are all occupations of our land, our people. We were in the history, like Ukraine was divided many times in the history. It was invaded. There were agreements of sale deed in Ukraine. A similar sale deeds were done in Kashmir. I do not want to go back into the history of it, but important for us at this stage for Kashmiris is to make an awareness, and we will request all of you to help us, whosoever in whatever capacity you can, help spread that occupations must end if conflicts have to be resolved. And unless we have conflicts, whether the conflict is Kashmir, Ukraine, whether it is Solomon Islands, Japan and China, whether it is Cyprus between Turkey and Greece, whether it's all other the territorial disputes with other countries, unless we do not, as a civilization, resolve these conflicts and issues, I think we may be heading towards a nuclear war in some time, God forbid. Because we have that. You have seen President Putin even giving indications that he can use nuclear arsenal. One of his statements, I think, if I am not wrong, says that if Russia is not there, I don't care, the world is there. So that kind of attitude is dangerous. It is ominous for the civilization to sustain. So again, I do not want to. There are other speakers here who would definitely talk about Kashmir, how it is, the human rights abuses are going. But definitely, I would request you, in your own individual capacity, to help Kashmir by making awareness about the place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Over 1 million boots on the ground. In the last 30, 40 years, we have lost over 100,000 individuals' lives, 84,000 square mile area, about 24 million people. They need your attention. Every single second that you spend here is valuable. Think about those human beings who are suffering. We certainly do not want to engage ourselves into a political conversation between India and Pakistan, but these individuals who are sitting here have come up with facts and figures that they want to share with you, and then let you decide. People in Kashmir do need your attention. Our next speaker is Altaf Qadri Saab. He is an activist, a current chairman for JKLF, another grassroots organization that strives for the independence of Kashmir. And he also serves on KGC board. Altaf Qadri Saab.
The Ukraine, what does Ukraine teach us? The overall history of Ukraine and its subsequent fallout reminds us that when a conflict is allowed to fester on non-resolution basis, what generally happens then, this is throughout the history if you read it. So all of a sudden, some personality cult comes up who becomes a fascist and destroys the world. And now today, we have many such personality cults around, such as Putin, such as Chinese Prime Minister, President, and we have Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, who is completely as fascist in every word of the definition. And then in Pakistan, you don't have a personality cult, but then you have Pakistan Army as an institution. So in this way, let me give you a brief snapshot about India first. The Prime Minister Modi rose to the power in 2014, and right from the day one, he fanned the communal hatred and put on rails the fascist designs. And it is not what I am saying, or it's not just a rhetorical statement. Let me give you little data. India fell 26 places from 27 to 53 on democracy index reported by Economist Intelligence. Number two, Free House downgraded. Free House is an organization that takes the data of democracy and human rights. The Free House downgraded India from free to partial free, a status that it shares with countries like Ecuador, Mozambique, and Serbia. Number 3, in the same manner, Sweden, VDEM is a variety of democracy, announced that India had ceased to be an electoral democracy, which is a little notch up above China. Then VDEM further describes that India has lost the most democratic ground over the past decade. By this measure, it regressed less than Hungary and Turkey, not more than little bit Bolivia and Thailand. And when all these questions were asked to the Foreign Minister of India, Mr. Jaishankar, in one of the press conclaves, when he was asked about the democracy, human rights, and all that, then he took a pause and then he replied, "Do you want an honest answer?" The press person nodded yes. Then he said, "Democracy is hypocrisy." Okay. So therefore, this is where Kashmiris are from the Indian side. Let me touch a little bit Pakistan. On the other side, Pakistan promotes also communal hatred to use it as a tool to divide Kashmiris from within our national boundaries and outside our national boundaries through corruption. Pakistan and India basically have similar designs. They pursue the policy of an unwritten agenda to divide Kashmiris and claim the issue is resolved. And in that 2019 Pakistan staging a charade of show of assembly highlighted was annexed, Gilgit-Baltistan was annexed and declared as a 5th province of Pakistan. Pakistan further exploits the natural resources, and India too, like forests and water, deprives its people from the benefits of their own resources and reduces us as serfs in our own land. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Altaf Qadri Sahab. I do want to say this. When we talk about India and Pakistan, there are certain pockets, people who make policies against the wishes and the will of their own country's people. So these are the people who bring the countries down because of their flawed policies, unfortunately. Our next speaker is an activist. She has, I call her a Friends of Kashmir. She have always made herself available anytime we need her to speak. She is a director for a genocide awareness project, Dr. Beverly Hill.
Greetings. I'm honored to speak here tonight, truly honored. I bring a message of solidarity to you in this room and to the people of Kashmir beyond it. Your cause is noble and just. Though it may not be apparent to you, solidarity for Kashmir extends deep into America. We want independence and self-determination for Kashmir, just as we want it for Tibet, Hong Kong, Palestine, and of course Ukraine. We grieve, we wince when we read about the vicious measures used to break the will of so many subject peoples. Your struggle is valiant. The last 3 years have been Kashmir's darkest hour, and yet they have been your finest hour. You have not given up, even after 75 years. Instead, you plumbed the depths of your souls, and despite your exhaustion, you found new resolve and new determination more than ever before. I salute you who have given your time, effort, and treasure for this cause. You are a small group with limited resources, but you are small and mighty. In the 3 years since August 2019, you have sprung into action and accomplished so much. First, you mobilized to help your countrymen and women, letting them know that they were not forgotten, that you would keep their plight before the world's eyes and advocate indefinitely until foreign powers withdrew and civil liberties were reestablished. Second, you peeked behind the veil of news censorship and internet shutdowns, carefully collecting news that leaked out of Kashmir. You reported to the world on the hidden horrors occurring there. Third, you kept the media focused on the situation. We know that the media has a short attention span and ignores whatever it cannot photograph. To keep Kashmir alive in the news behind this veil, you had to be very creative. Your protest at the Howdy Modi rally was a stroke of genius. You forced the media to report on Kashmir even as Trump embraced a tyrant. Your protest in Toronto was another clever tactic because you brought the case before a government far more concerned with human rights and territorial sovereignty than the Trump administration. Fourth, you developed a blueprint for Kashmir to transition to self-rule. In the interest of time, I'll skip the details. Fifth, you have created a model for Kashmir's economic development using another mountainous country, Switzerland, as your model. Last but not least, you plan for a country where women enjoy equal rights and education and help build the new economy. Thank you for that. I too have a cause and often feel overwhelmed. Some days I find it difficult to summon my inner warrior to continue the fight. I think you know this feeling too, and yet you soldier on, we soldier on, to confront powers that are illegitimate but overwhelming. This brings to mind the words of poet Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. You will rise. We will rise. We are allies, but tonight we focus on your struggle, and I stand wholeheartedly with you.
We had our other speaker who have dedicated her spot to her husband. His name is Ahmed Bilado. He is a scholar and a renowned expert on the issues such as cultural, societal, and political factors that matters. And he lives in Irving with his wife, Annette French. So may I ask Ahmed to share some few words with us?
Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed. I didn't realize I'm going to speak here tonight. I didn't prepare any speech, but I will try my best based on a little bit of understanding of what's going on in Kashmir. And the best thing what we need to do, see, I'm very special in having success, because we can have meeting every day. If we don't achieve anything, we're not going to go nowhere. The best is just like Palestine. They've been fighting for over, 70 years. They haven't got the land. But the best thing what we need to do, we have to combine. The first thing, we need to know what we need to achieve every day. Talk only, it doesn't solve problem. It can give us exposure so that they know our concern. We have to have a real strategy. What's going to make Kashmir free totally. My suggestion is the first thing is to focus on the independence. Make sure the Kashmir have their own independence. At the same time, based on what I see in the map, you cannot make enemy. You have to find one of them that you have a common either religion, either language, because you have a three nuclear power that surround you. You can't make all of their enemy. If you want to choose Pakistan as your friend, so that you can start working from there as a base, because you cannot be working to have your independence from outside, where you can, when you make China, Pakistan, India as enemy. The first goal is to fight, let Pakistan, China, and India know that we want independence. We'll be happy to work with you after we get our independence. We'll have a representative in your country after we have independence. Then the next step is when we have the independence, we will have a referendum. So how we want to govern the society. We have to have a strong ally. I understand you can have a strong ally like US that can help you. We need ally in everything to achieve goal. That's the way I say it, and I pray to God so that we can achieve our goal to free Kashmir. Thank you.
Our next speaker is from Ground Zero from Srinagar, and he is current CEO of CIS USA, Munir Beg.
Hope you don't mind if I stand up. I came to know that I'm going to speak just a few hours ago. So don't worry, you're not alone on that boat. It makes two of us. Being a Kashmiri who was raised in Kashmir and has seen this struggle start and has seen the blood shed, has any friends left alive? It is a personal thing. Unfortunately, living in the West, or fortunately, I will leave that to you to decide. When we look at United States, I came to this country 32 years ago, right after the struggle started. My parents pushed me out because the only other option was just like my friends, be dead a long time ago. When we look at United States as a beacon of hope for the world, when we look at Ukraine, what happened in Ukraine, all of a sudden, every city, every county, every state started rallying to support. My question to my countrymen is, why? Why was it when Ukraine was attacked, you stood up like a wall against Russia and were willing to fund billions of dollars when we are in deficit for Ukrainian war? Why are we ignoring other wars in the world? Is it just because they are disposable? They don't look the same? I'm sorry. Some of these words might offend people, but let's talk the truth. Are we discriminating? Are we creating a hypocritic system whereby United States, the beacon of hope, is only the beacon of hope for those that please it? Or are we going to be the human rights champion for all humankind? If we want to be the human rights champions for all humankind, then we must treat everybody equal. Or else we're sending a signal to the world that we will treat you differently, and with the consequences, then when we go out and need their help, they say, thank you very much, it was nice dealing with you before, we're not going to invest. Pakistan today, you look at the war that took place in Afghanistan, 80,000 lives of Pakistanis have been lost. Nobody counts that. 100,000+ Kashmiris have been lost in the last 10 years. As I told you, my own friends, I might have maybe 2 or 3 left from my school days. That's about it. Everybody else is dead. When I was 16 or 18 in Kashmir, what army used to do, they used to cordon off the areas, pick up all the youth, and take them and kill them. I know my friends who were taken up from their houses and next day delivered back to their parents saying they were shot at the border crossing. You picked him up last night, and their whole body was torn up with stitches because they tortured them to get some information, which there was none. My own parents, there was an incident that took place in our area. They called the fire brigade because that was another practice of the army. Any area where there was a firing on them, they will cordon the area, put the gunpowder and light up the area and burn everything up. They called the fire brigade that they're going to start burning the area, you better be here. And the fire brigade was stopped and asked, who called you? And we're one of the known families, and so called us. My 80-year-old grandfather was dragged out of his bed, hit by a gun butt, and kind of dragged out in the street and put kerosene oil on top of him, and my uncle's ready to be burned. This is Kashmir that we know nothing about. This is not Ukraine where we see the videos every day. This is a place that has been blocked from communicating outside the world. The only voice they have is the voice here. It requires support from everybody, from every human. Everybody who has a beating heart in their chest must feel the pain of others. Thank you very much.
These are some painful numbers that are coming from the ground zero. Since 2019, ever since India abrogated its Article 370 and 35A, over 13,000 structural damage. And this is the report coming from Reuters. 360 encounters just in this year, 2022, last 6 or 7 months. 360 fake encounters, 1,100 cold-blooded search operations, 1 million boots sieging the entire region of Srinagar, 190 have been killed, 170 injured, 240 arrested. Internet has been shut down 90 times. Just in last month, 110 structural damage was done in Srinagar. And the worst part is, not all the true news is coming out of the ground zero, unfortunately. Our next speaker is Sayyid Fayaz Hussain. He's the president of Democratic Caucus for Muslim South Asia Democracy Watch. A seasoned activist, have always stood up for the right things. Sayyid Fayaz Hussain.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Raja Muzaffar Sahab, Farooq Siddiqui Sahab, Altaf Qadri Sahab, and my beloved Mujib Qazi. It's a great honor for me to address this august meeting of Americans who enjoy the freedom and liberty like breathing air enjoying the fruit of life as bestowed upon us by nature. Our gathering here today is to ponder on the oppressed people of Kashmir who are out to breathe the same air and enjoy the same nature as people of the free world with liberty and justice for all. U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower, while addressing the nation when he was leaving the White House, used the phrase of military-industrial complex and urged new leadership to strike a balance in civilian and military priorities. This was an admission of presence of military-industrial complex at the highest level of American political hierarchy. For next several decades, the military-industrial complex let the public policy vision prevail with death and destruction not only by U.S. but throughout the world. The Vietnam and Korean Wars, the Middle Eastern conquest, ending in more than 2 million deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan, sanctions on Iran, and most recently the Ukraine war, which has dire implications on oil and gas and is leading into a worldwide recession next year. The military-industrial complex plays into its own dynamics in third world countries as well. In case of Pakistan and India, the conflict of Kashmir is used to promote institutional interest of the mini military-industrial complex, which is connected to the international complex in the West. Conflicts suits the Western world from where they can extract resources in post-colonial era. In case of Pakistan, the conflict of Kashmir is kept on front burner to address the people of to oppress the people of Pakistan through military control on economic resources. The resources which could have been spent on education, industrialization, and poverty alleviation. Resources to build Pakistan was redirected to the destruction of a neighbor on the name of disputed territory of Kashmir. Same is happening in India, while instead of addressing the object poverty, they have 800,000 of their military presence in Kashmir. The militarization of the region and arming both nations with nuclear devices are of no use for people of Kashmir. Thousands of Kashmiris and Pakistanis since were used in the conflict, which became a fight for disputed territory rather than a peaceful struggle for just cause of independence. India and Pakistan showed from their behavior that they are least interested in Kashmiri people and the rights of self-determination. Both countries are interested in occupation of land rather than addressing the basic human rights of Kashmiri people. This scenario suits the war sponsors and military-industrial complex in the West. Peace in the region does not suit their prospects on bottom line of manufacturers of military equipments. Both Pakistan and India have used Kashmir to blackmail the whole world as nuclear flashpoint and the most dangerous conflict zone in the world. If any of these two countries are so much interested in a solution to the conflict, then why they do not let the people of Kashmir decide as what they really want? Kashmir is not just a piece of land or a disputed territory. Kashmir is a proud nation with rich history, cultural heritage, and most of all, the willingness to fight for their nationhood. Let the people of Kashmir decide as how do they want to run their state independent of all foreign pressure and intimidation. Being a Pakistani American and a peace and justice activist, I wish for disarmament of both sides of Kashmir. I demand both countries to let Kashmiri nation decide to decide the future course. This is not a Pakistani issue, this is not an Indian issue, this is a Kashmiri issue, and no third country should be interfering in internal matter of Kashmir. The territorial and national sovereignty of Kashmir must be observed and respected. Let's give peace a chance in Kashmir, which is nothing but a model of heaven on earth, which has long history of diversity and cultural richness in the world. The land of Sufi saints and saffron-clad pundits who like to breathe the same air as people in free world breathe. At the end, I will repeat the words of wisdom from Martin Luther King Jr. Peace is not merely absence of war, but is presence of justice. I'm again thankful to the organizers and Kashmir World Council for giving me this great opportunity to speak at this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sayyid Faiz Hussain Saab, for your kind words. Our next speaker is Aftab Siddiqui Saab, who is the president of Dallas Peace and Justice. He is a very well-known activist in our community, has taught in the university as a professor, an intellectual, a scholarly personality. We are very grateful for him giving us the honor of being in our seminar today. Aftab Siddiqui Saab.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak to this August gathering, and I appreciate the organizing of this event. Okay, so much has been said about Ukraine and Kashmir that I would not like to repeat all that. We all know what's going on on Ukraine and how the West has stood up to help the Ukrainian, and rightly so. But unfortunately, we do know that nobody else has really done anything about the Kashmiri people. Okay, while the entire West has stood by Ukraine, no country has helped the Kashmiri people. One difference is that Ukraine is a part of Europe, and NATO sees an opportunity to weaken Russia without directly attacking Russia. Ukrainians are fighting the war for themselves, but more so for US and UK. The media hypes the plight of Ukrainians because military-industrial complex and big corporations make money out of these forever wars. Kashmir is not a part of Europe, and it is too far away from US and Europe. Additionally, India and Pakistan are not strong enough to pose a threat to the interests of US and Europe, and thank God for that. Otherwise, you can be sure that US and the West will be really doing something about this issue, trying to make mischief for both the countries. And of course, China is a rising power, but US is priming up Taiwan to fight against China, unfortunately. I think the way forward for Kashmiris is to form a united front for an independent Kashmir, a country which is inclusive of all population segments. A pluralistic society is the best option forward. An independent Kashmir does not necessarily mean like a sovereign state like India or Pakistan in the foreseeable future, but a demilitarized state with open borders for trade and traveling, and open traveling within the state. The families have been divided for the last 75 years. It is time for India and Pakistan and China to let the families meet each other and unite. I envision an Asian Switzerland, as Beverly's very well said. A gradual opening of borders and free trade in the entire state. And of course, how do we start? Of course, number one is the Kashmiris have to really come together, all the segments of the population, and the diaspora and the people who are still living in Kashmir, and start working with India and Pakistan and keep China in the loop. Later, China can hopefully open its administered part of Kashmir, hopefully. But we talk about in years and decades. It's not going to be simple, it's not going to be easy, but that is the way forward, I believe. An autonomous state managed by Kashmiri people is the right thing is the right resolution for the Kashmir issue. And of course, why would Pakistan, India, and China be interested in talking to the Kashmiris? Right now, look what's going on in Pakistan, the floods. Pakistan and India and Kashmir are ground zero for the climate change. All these countries have to really understand that and try to do something about that. And if they are serious to really fight against the climate crisis, then the best way forward is to really have a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir issues. And once again, I would really like to thank the organizers and everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Aftab Sahab, for your kind words. Today we have among us our brother from Pandit community from Kashmir, Veer Kashmiri, who is going to share his words of wisdom with us.
Thank you very much. Let's first applaud Kashmir Global Council for let us applaud Kashmir Global Council for generating the beginning of a new era of hope, harmony, love, and prosperity. Kashmir forever. Now, actually, what I wanted to say, or what I will actually be endorsing, has been said by Sayyid Fiaz Hassan Sahab. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say. And Mr. Aftab Siddiqui. So what I am saying is an endorsement of what they have said. Let me just quickly read out. Kashmir, Ukraine, how similar they are, or how different are they? I will not talk of history. You all know that. I will talk a few facts and what is derived through common sense. Yes, common sense, because that is where the sense is to both of these situations. I will also not be mentioning religion. That does not apply. Interestingly, Crimea is what part of Kashmir? Now, do both of these plans, Ukraine and Kashmir, both of these places, Ukraine and Kashmir, match up politically or otherwise? Well, you can always deduct your own possibilities, similarities amongst all troubled places around the world. Let us get two things out of what I will say. One, making Article 370, inoperative, a truly bad move from whichever angle, whichever side do we look at. The other is religion. Not only which we should not be analyzing or talking about the situation from, any angle. Leadership, one has to be very watchful about. Zelensky is one good example of that. Actually, a bad example. With Russia on your border, you want to join NATO in a war treaty against Russia. You lose Crimea, Donbass, etc., and control over your nuclear plant. And again, you get the common man suffer. Yes, the common man suffers. It is very easy to visualize Kashmir as Switzerland. What makes Switzerland is worth pondering and striving. Ukraine must neutralize I think I need my glasses. And I'll wind it up soon. Ukraine must neutralize itself to be a good neighbor, which guarantees its safety and independence. Living in Texas, we know, as per its constitution, Texas can secede from mainland USA. But should it? Would it? To stop Kashmir from bleeding, it needs a strong social economic system with an amicable political structure. Would you want to displace the large majority of Hindko-speaking Pahari people from the Azad Kashmir or settled in so-called Azad Kashmir by Ayub Khan? Are they Kashmiris now? I say, why not? It is so very important to have that helping hand strong and trustworthy, and all options lead to an amicable political structure. And this may be a good starting point for Kashmir. Reenactment of Article 370, a strong social economic system with an amicable political structure. To the glory of people of Kashmir, all people, and let there be peace and harmony in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it was an absolute honor having you among us. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And we hope and look forward to working together going forward. We are down to the last two speakers, and before we open the floor for questions and answers, inshallah. So I would like to request Brother Qasim Khokhar, who serves on the board at KGC, as an engineer by trade, and so he has been working for City of New York for as long as I know him. Qasim Khokhar, we need mic, please.
Great. It is a nice gathering, and the topic is very important actually. When we look at Kashmir and Ukraine, I would say for last 70 years, with all those economic and technological advances, when we compare these two events, we see we are still in the old ages. In 1947, Pakistani forces used trucks, and Indian forces used small Cessna planes and small rifles to invade in Kashmir. And in 2022, Russian forces use tanks and big armed cars with all electronics and surveillances. But the other side of the story is mothers are the same, sisters are the same. Suffering is the same for all those people. And I would like international community to end this suffering. I like United Nations to stand up, wake up. Since United Nations was born, Kashmiris are suffering. You can claim all those solutions to different problems, but your first problem was Kashmir. And we are the people of Kashmir. We want justice. We want all those foreign forces out of Kashmir. We want Pakistani people and their forces out of Kashmir, Indian people and their forces out of Kashmir, Chinese forces out of Kashmir. We don't want to deal with them. We want to stay separate. We are very peace-loving people, and we like our own country, so we can contribute to the international community in education, in science, in computer science. We want to go to moon too. We want to explore the sky. So give us our chance, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to Barrister Tosif Saab, who is a writer, an author, a thinker, and an attorney. Tosif Saab.
Yeah, thank you very much, Raja Saab and Farooq Saab, for coming down here. We all know the history of Kashmir, how it came was a byproduct of the partition of India and Pakistan into two regions, Muslim majority regions became Pakistan, except Kashmir, which was a Muslim majority state, was denied its freedom. And to this day, as various speakers have pointed out, hundreds of thousands Kashmiris have been killed, hundreds wounded, women raped, children slaughtered, the houses demolished, the whole social structure wiped out. Why? Because they wanted liberty, they wanted freedom to live their own lives, and to practice liberty and freedom just like Americans did when they fought against the British, So this is the tragedy of Kashmir, and this is the Kashmir crisis in a nutshell, The people want freedom, and the human rights, the basic inalienable rights for life and liberty are being violated as we speak today. So I would urge all those here, present here, to do their utmost to highlight these violations of human rights and denial of freedom. Write to the congressmen, write to the representatives, speak to the media, and spread the word. That's all the Kashmiris want, freedom. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tosif Saab. Thank you very much. We have Robert Checks. He wants to speak a few words. Robert, Mike.
Thank you. I've enjoyed listening. I want to say a special thanks to my friend Syed Hassan. I think he had a very insightful discussion of Ukraine with respect to the military-industrial complex. I think it's the hidden hand. It's a motive, profit. Well, let me not digress too much into Ukraine, but to Kashmir, let me go back to 1947 and the United Nations, and to a few years later. What year was the Universal Declaration adopted? I don't remember. 48? At any rate, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a guide for the future of the planet. If we are as intelligent a species as we think we are, we should get on board with this right away, because we're facing very challenging times with the climate, and we need to work together. The Ukraine situation is distracting us. Our president, Mr. Biden, went to Saudi Arabia, forgiving, I guess, the leader of that country for assassinating a journalist, and begging him to increase the production of oil. Now, this is no way to combat climate change. So I think that we need to rely on the United Nations, give them credence, give them support. It's a dangerous world out there, but we have to stick to those values that everybody recognizes as applicable to all humans. And the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights seems to be the best compilation so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. We have a question from Asil Khan Saab, who is back there.
My question is, as we have observed, the Kashmiris are still suffering, and we have seen many protests, demonstrations, but the question is, how long is it going to take? Is there any solution? What are our strategies? Any panelists can help us, please.
Kashmiris worked with the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva and in New York. And there were reports which our activists back and home in Kashmir, they devised a way of getting the information, and ultimately the structure of violence was a book they compiled, and it was given to the United Nations Human Rights Council sessions, right? And after 2 or 3 years of those reports were studied by the United Nations Human Rights Council, and they issued in 2018 their first ever report on human rights abuses in Kashmir. Those abuses were about 14 clauses of them were those abuses were perpetuated by the Indian military under their control of Kashmir. And 4 clauses were those which were perpetuated by the Pakistani administration. So what happened then when on 2018, 16th of July, I remember, the United Nations Human Rights Council also devised a method to how to proceed further for the commission of inquiry. And if the commission, because there is a mechanism the United Nations works, you just can't go there and knock their door and say that, hey, come on, there is something going on here, and they will straight away come. That doesn't happen. So the mechanism is set there. What happened is these were the reports only. The United Nations wanted actually to go and talk to the victims and talk to those governments themselves to find whether these reports are right or wrong. So they appealed both India as well as Pakistan. This is an answer to you also. They appealed both India and Pakistan that you should allow us to get into so that we can verify these reports which have been, these were very credible reports from all over Reuters and everything. India rejected within two hours of report was issued by the United Nations Human Rights Council. Within 2 hours it rejected completely and said that we are not going to allow any official of the United Nations to come and verify these reports. I would have expected that Pakistan, being a friendly country for Kashmiris as it claims, that they would allow this officials of United Nations to their country, their part of the Kashmir, and say that, okay, you go ahead with it. A report could have come that India refused it, but Pakistan allowed it, and a commission of inquiry could have started against India. But unfortunately, these two countries work together when it comes to resolving of Kashmir. They don't want to resolve the Kashmir issue. Let me explain to you, as you really said, you said yourself about the war machinery of Ukraine, what is happening here. Exactly the same thing is happening. Pakistan right now needs money for their people who are flooded. What they are spending, United States, it's yesterday's news that $450 million have been given to Pakistan for refurbishment of F-16s. I don't know if you know that. So this is a war machinery going on at the cost of the sufferings of the people. And people like this gentleman here, they do not understand it. That is why we are suffering here.
We want to thank our delegates who came all the way from Canada, from New York, New Jersey, far-fetched places. We want to thank you all. I just want to say this in concluding. For the last 75 years, people of Kashmir have suffered a lot. They have sacrificed over 100,000 lives. They have been used as proxy for many people or the organization of interest. We have been very candid and very open discussing all those and presented facts to you for you to decide. Facts and figures are available. No one can deny them. The reality remains that 24 million people are suffering. The misery is, and atrocities are mounting. Oppression, repression, suppression is mounting. We just cannot sit back and watch it as if this is not my problem. We should not be one of those people who think that as long as it's not impacting my family directly, I'm not going to talk about it. That's not what humanity is about. As a human being, we need to stand up. We need to raise our voices. We are peaceful people. We don't have ammunition. We don't have arsenal. We don't have a might and capability to fight these three mighty powers. All we can do is to raise voices as one united human beings. That's all, and thank you very much. Let's break for dinner.